All right, what's shaking, everybody? Welcome back. First of all, I want to apologize. I got a little lozenge in my mouth right now. I have a little bit of a cold, so I apologize if I get a little cough going. Sorry about that. But we wanted to get up Friday, and we weren't able to. I had some technical difficulties. Still, actually having one within the application that we use here. It's a Google Hangout. There's what they call the control box or whatever, toolbox or something is not working, so I don't have my nice little graphic underneath and a couple other features. So, and I've got an external mic that we're using right now, so hopefully it's working. It shows that it's working, so hopefully we're good. So, hey, welcome back, episode 4. We can call this the DL, hence Dave Latourette, and you are just under 14 weeks to go until Ironman Santa Rosa. So still a lot of time. No need to panic, even if you've missed some training. It's winter, everyone gets sick. Don't worry about that. You've got a ton of time to go and a lot of influential training periods to get through to get ready for race day. So be patient. No panic yet anyway. So first thing I want to talk about is just before we get into logistics, let's talk a little bit about what I want to talk about is a couple things that we've got going on. I've got a swim clinic going on, so if you're reasonably local, it's a 3-part swim clinic, and it starts February the 18th, March the 4th, and March the 18th. So 3 75-minute sessions. Really take 1 or 2 key pieces of swim technique. It's really geared towards the open water swimmer and the triathlete, and some of the things that we need to work on to get us ready for our races. So if you're interested in that, reach out through Facebook or whatever it is. You can email me, dave@traintoendure.com, and I can send you the information. And we'd love to have you there. We rent a pool, and it's all to ourselves. And it's a good environment to really focus on. You go away for a couple weeks, come back, and you work on it a little bit more. The second thing is, too, I've got some people that have reached out regarding course training camps, training weekends, et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to do those, and I'll do those, and I'll get them out. I'm waiting for a couple things relative to getting it done. Main thing is knowing exactly what the bike course is. We know where it's going to start, but we want to have a good idea and how to handle the logistics. Again, we've said it before, we're 30 miles away from T1. And what we did last year is I hired a local cycling guide, and what he did was take we could get a dozen people and bikes on his vehicle or in his vehicle, and up to Lake Sonoma. I carried a couple more bikes, so we can do up to 14 or 15 athletes, and that way everything gets transported up there. You can swim, and then we ride point to point. There may be some other ways around it, but that has been the best way to do it, so you can see a large portion of the course, get to swim, get to cycle, and then where we finish, we can transition straight to the actual run course in itself. So keep your eyes out, ears out for that. We'll post them into our Facebook page, also to these Ironman Santa Rosa Facebook pages as well. Hold on just a second. I'm going to reach across here, grab something, my notes. Sorry. Hence problems of live television. All right, so here we go. So let's talk logistics. All right, I want to talk logistics. Pre-race, logistics pre-race for you as an athlete and for your Sherpas. My thing, and I've said this before, and I wrote it in an article, is make sure you have a plan. And before you ever come to the race, have a plan of how you want to handle your day and the day before, the 2 days before, whatever it is, so that you're logistically dialed in and you're organized, and your family and your friends are organized as well. So pre-race, remember, you're going to have to drop your bike off the day before the race. 30 miles to Lake Sonoma. I think there's a couple good options for you. Some people chose to pay Tri-Bike Transport last year and have them bring their bike up to T1. Now, what I saw is a lot of people never saw T1, never saw the swim start, never saw the swim exit before race morning. I don't advise that. I think there's some dynamics there that you want to see. You want to see the downhill at the beginning of the course that we've already talked about. And I think it's a good idea. Even if you don't drive your bike up, drive up and see that. And then on the way back, drive drive part of the course if you haven't driven it already. And once again, I've said it a couple times. Once the course actually gets announced, we'll talk about how you can see the course, and you can maybe drive it in pieces or in chunks or ride little pieces of it depending on your pre-race when you're here. But so before the race, I think one option is Tri Bike Transport. You can pay them to transport your bike up. They will rack your bike for you. But I still think it's a terrific idea to at least go up, even if it's not the day before, 2 days before, and see the layout. Some of you I know come from other parts of the country, don't have a vehicle where you can shuttle bikes back and forth, so Tri Bike Transport's a good option, and it's a little less hassle for you too, as well. So that's one. The other one is, and I had athletes do this last year that were asking, I think a good way to do it is, do you want to take your own bike up? That way you take it up, you get to rack your bike, you get to see where your transition bags go, exactly where they are. You can see the whole layout of that entire T1 process. And it's a good day to go up, since you're there, to not make another trip, to get an easy swim in. To get up, swim a little bit onto the course. You don't have to swim the whole course, but you can get an idea of how it's going to swim and what it's going to look like. So my suggestion is, and we'll cover it more in detail when we get closer, but have a pre-race plan as far as logistics, just so that you don't find yourself not sure where to go, when to go, how to do it. Take a look at when the athlete guide comes out, the meetings, when the meetings are, decide which meetings you want to go to, and just schedule that in. That way it makes it easier for you to say to your friends, your family, your wife, your husband, okay, on Thursday I'm going to do this, on Friday I'm going to do that, and then you have time buffered around it to hang out and enjoy Sonoma County and Santa Rosa especially. So take that in consideration. Second thing, we'll talk about course today. So the second topic, as usual, is our course. And what I want to talk about, since we don't have the bike course completely unveiled, is road surfaces. Everyone has that as a common question. And if you live here or live in this general area, you know what you're going to get. And that is a little bit of everything. Okay, you're going to get a little bit of everything. Dave Reed, your race director, is addressing the issue from last year with road surfaces. And from speaking with him, from what I'm getting is that we're going to have better road surfaces. It's Sonoma County, the way that it is here, the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles of roads that we have. It's variety. We have different county services, city services, and even the state on Highway 128. So the road surfaces are all going to be different based on how they get serviced and how they get repaved. So I would be prepared for a little bit of everything from completely smooth, glassy, smooth roads like you'll see on a large part of West Side Road in the years previous, which wasn't like that 5 years ago. It's been newly paved. You're going to have stuff that's what we'll call a light chip seal, which a lot of people aren't used to riding. They're used to riding smooth roads all the time. Some of that light chip seal will be very consistent. And then you're going to have pieces of road that are just going to be older pieces of road that haven't been repaved. So be prepared for a little bit of everything and start to get a good understanding of tire pressure and how you're going to run tire pressure. A lot of people around here that are getting on board with it, if they have a semi-wide to a wider rim, we're running really low tire pressures. For instance, just in training on my bike, if I'm riding my road bike, I have a basic head aluminum wheel. It's a Belgium, I believe is what it's called, and it's an XL rim, so it's a wider rim. And I'm running 75 to 80 psi on that wheel in training. That's regardless of surface. If I was riding more bad surface, I'd run it definitely on the 75 end. And for example, my wife, who's much lighter, smaller female athlete, we're riding max 80 psi on her race wheels on a Zip Firecrest, like a 303 and a 404. And a lot of people I saw on race day pumping up tires 110, 120. It's too much. So consider that. They're good questions to ask too, based on your weight and your tires and your wheels and things like that. And it makes a really, really big difference. So just be aware, road surfaces, we're going to have a big variety of them. And then when the bike course gets announced, I can talk you through every single road and what to look out for within those surfaces and how to deal with that. So That makes your race day. You can experiment with it. A lot of people think if they go low pressure, they're going to flat all the time or they're losing rolling resistance. The reality is you're getting better rolling resistance if you run proper tire pressure, which is often a little bit less in the way that it rolls and it's more comfortable. All right, so any questions on that, feel free to ask. Third thing we'll talk about is training. This week we've talked a variety of topics, and I want to talk about, it's still far enough out that we can talk about addressing your weaknesses. Where are your weaknesses, mental or physical or a combination of both? Are you injury prone? I mean, whatever those things are, continue to address those. We're a long ways out still from starting to do the more and more specific type of training. When I say specific, meaning course specific, meaning the exact terrain, exact energy systems. For instance, if you know you're going to ride the race or run the race at specific heart rates or powers or paces, you don't need to do a lot of that within that zone or range or level right now. Yeah, you're always going to work somewhere in there because of the nature of that distance and how we train. But ideally, we're probably doing some stuff below it, right? And we're doing stuff above it. Excuse me. So be leery of that. Address your weaknesses and continue to train your weaknesses. And I said it early on, and I'll continue to harp on it. If you struggle with your swimming, start to bring the swimming up now. Do more now, because you're going to get to a point when you're 6 or 8 weeks out when it's going to be hard to increase your swimming based above your base level, what you need because of your fatigue levels. And once we get tired, for almost everybody, our swim training starts to fall off. Not what we're doing, but how we're doing it. It seems to be a little slower because fatigue is set in. And once I find that athletes freshen up, the swimming comes back to them a little bit. So address that. Another example is if running is your weakness, and I'm not speed because speed is a non-issue at the Ironman distance, but it's more of a durability issue. I get athletes all the time like, well, my longest run is 2 hours and 45 minutes, and I can only get in 16 miles. One thing that we do with our athletes, or I've seen or encourage other athletes to do, is spend time on your feet. After there's a certain point of diminishing returns where you can only run so long when you get into that big bulk of training, to the point where you can't come back the next day and train and you need 2 days off. Another good way to address that is running plus hiking. So spend some time in the hills hiking. You can strength train, do some other things that help increase your durability for the Ironman distance. And really what we're looking for an Ironman distance is, and it's even the same thing for a lot of people, 70.3 is you're trying to go that whole distance, whether it's 70.3 miles or 140.6 miles, without slowing down. And that's the goal. And the people that can go the longest without slowing down are going to be the ones who win the battle at the end of the day. So consider that. Keep training and addressing your weaknesses, whatever those are, and be diligent with it. So we're just under 14 weeks, and we still have a ton of time to go to get it all done. So don't press yourself just yet. Last thing we talk is questions. Had some good questions come in. Don't want to take too long to address a ton of them, but some 3 good ones came in. And people are already starting to ask about fueling and how am I going to fuel my race. We probably aren't doing training right now that's specific enough to actually work completely on our fueling plan, or race fueling plan that we're going to use in May for Ironman Santa Rosa. So, but things you can start to focus on are what products do you like? What flavors are tolerable? Even to the point you may be not even sure how much you're going to drink because you may be training in cooler weather right now. Even though race day here will likely not be hot, it can be. Again, it's something we can get into. But we can start to focus on what are some products that I like and start to make a list of those types of drinks, and be it chews or gels or those types of things. We always know we're going to take in water, whatever that is. Start to get a feel for that. And if on training and on a stressful training day, some things don't work for you, there's a reason why they don't work for you. And we'll get into the fueling side of it and how to make some decisions as far as what works and what doesn't work. I'll see a lot of athletes that go through training and say, oh, this worked perfect in training. and they get to race day and it doesn't work. And I ask, okay, what did you do? How did you do it? And I find out that they never tried it in any kind of race environment, which is a stressful environment. So practicing it in a stressful environment like a race is pretty important. So we can find different ways to stress ourselves to see how it works. It could be a long, harder training day. Ideally, it's in a race or races before this where you've either had other races and you can try it out. But at least for now, get a feel for what you like and what you don't like, what you like, not what other people suggest. And then you try it and you don't like it, but because they use it, you think you need to use it. Um, and have some variety because the day is long. What you might like at 3 hours may not be the same at 8 hours or at 14 or at 16. So start to consider it. You don't have to have it dialed in, but start to work through some things in that process. The second question was open water swimming at Lake Sonoma. I had someone who emailed me from up in Pacific Northwest, Seattle area. I think it was Seattle area. And they're talking about coming down in February to maybe train a little bit and ask about open water swimming. Actually, our weather's really good right now, but Lake Sonoma is probably a bit murky and it's cold. Although we've had warm weather the last week, as opposed to the foggy, cold stuff I had talked about the week before. But it's not a good time to come down and get in the water and swim here. It's probably murky. There's a lot of debris in the water. Really, mid-April is probably one of the earlier times, or early April, that you will be able to get into. Well, you can get in earlier, but it's sort of diminishing returns because of the water temp. Um, we'll get some athletes in the water in April, and it'll still be pretty cold. So I would hold off on that and be patient with it. If you do come into the area to train through the winter months. Remember our winter months, like right now we're having a string of 70-degree days, but 10 days from now we could be back to 50s and rain and 30 degrees at night. So it's just variable as it goes. So no need to try and do that right now. It's probably not the safest environment to do it. And the last question had to do with swimming open water, but really on race day. And the question had to do with should I wear a neoprene cap and gloves and booties and those types of things. And in general, if it's early May and the weather and the water temperature are typical, which is going to be water temps in the upper 50s to low 60s, air temperatures in the upper 40s to around 50. So when you get out of the water, it's still going to be cool and you have a long descent off the bike like we talked about. Most people can't go wrong with a neoprene cap. It's going to be really difficult to overheat. I would rather have athletes get out of the water and have their core temperature be warm and their body be a little bit warmer. And that way it's more tolerable the rest of the day. And the longer that you're going to be in the water, the more important it is to stay warm. So maybe it might be the neoprene cap. Gloves are not allowed at any point, so it's not an area that we can address. But booties are allowed, and I should have looked up the water temp before I came on, but there's a cutoff, and it's in the low 60s. So if it's below that temperature, you can wear the booties, and above it, you cannot wear the booties. And that's a WTC Ironman type of rule. You won't need them to do the run out up. We've talked about that. It'll be carpeted and padded. So, I think for a lot of people, the neoprene cap is a really good way to go, unless you're prone to really overheat or you just don't like that covering on your ears. And maybe for some people, it's two swim caps. It's a thicker silicone cap with a neoprene, with the race latex cap over the top. So, and when we get close, if we think that it's going to be cold in the morning or the water's going to be colder than normal, we can create a scenario for all you or some options for you of how you want to address that. So anyway, thanks for tuning back in. This is episode 4, and hopefully we have a finalized bike course out for you pretty quick, and then I can address that because it seems a lot of questions coming that way. And keep at it with your training. Just be consistent, like I've said. Still a long way to go. Don't get too tired right now. You just want to be able to keep knocking out your training days without getting overly tired. If you do get overly tired, listen to your body. Take a little break when you need it. And next week I'm going to talk about at about 11 to 12 or 10 to 12 weeks, how you can sort of freshen yourself up for that peak run into the last bit of your training for Ironman Sonoma Rosa. So till next week, thanks for tuning in. pop up your questions if you have them, and I'll keep addressing them. Stay healthy. See ya. Bye.